Hey guys, Morgan from Rebellious Reading. We talk about all things books. And today we're going to be playing the Multifaceted TBR game for March. So, those of you who saw my February game know that I ended up with 16 books. How many did I manage to read? Well, I managed to read 6 of them. Shut up, kitty. Sorry if you guys can hear my brother in the background. He's severely autistic. He makes a lot of annoying noises, and because he's basically a giant 2-year-old, there's no way we can tell him to stop. So sorry about that. But anyway, let's go over what I did and did not read. So, for what I did read, I was able to read love poems from the Japanese. I finished this in one day. I also read Wildcat by Rebecca Ginchak. This is done and dusted. And I also read Ghost by Jason Reynolds, Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark, and Dracula by Bram Stoker. Oh, and I was also able to finish Killing Rage by Eamon Collins, or however you say that. So, that's 6 of them, and I also read 3 other books, including Ethan Frome, which would have taken the place of Beach Read as my winter pick, because as it turns out, this is not as wintry as I thought. And I also read The Valentine's Hate for a readathon I decided to participate in at the last minute. And for my last reading vlog, I read The First Bright Thing by J.R. Dawson. So, I read 9 books in total, but only 6 of them were actually on my TBR. Let's see if I can do better this month. So my punishment is I have to roll all of the books I didn't finish over except for the ones that are for board games. So basically all of them except A Man Called Uwe, which I'll be putting back on my shelf for another month. Meanwhile, the books I will be rolling over include Icebreaker by Hannah Grace, Fair Catch by Candy Steiner, The Deal by Elle Kennedy, all 4 of those Emily Henry books, and also Callerho by Sheridan and Metamorphosis by Ovid. So, yeah, those are my rollovers. And now, let's get on with what I'm going to be reading this month. So to start things off, we have to go over the 3-year-long challenges I'm doing. Those being Buzzwordathon, Book Covered Book Club, and Genreathon. Now, let's start with Buzzwordathon. For Buzzwordathon, the prompt is, read a book with a character's name in the title. So, for that, I'm going to be reading Gregor the Overlander. This is a middle grade fantasy that I read when I was 12 or 11, I think. And I really enjoyed it. It's about a kid named Gregor who falls down a hole and ends up under the streets of New York, and there he meets a world full of giant animals and also some humans that look like they've been living underground for too long because they have. So, yeah. This is an interesting series. It's by the author of The Hunger Games, Suzanne Collins. And, yeah, I remember it being awesome. Let's see if it holds up. And for Book Cover Book Club, the prompt is color blocking, which means a book with contrasting colors on the cover. And for that, I'm reading The Psychopath Test by John Ronson. This is a non-fiction about psychopaths, I guess. I don't know much about it beyond that. And then for Genreathon, I have to read either for Genreathon, I have to read either a psychological thriller or a dark romance. I'm going the psychological thriller route and reading The Castaways by Lucy Clark. I read The Blue by Lucy Clark last year, and it was a 10 out of 10 for me. So, that means So of course I'm going to want to try out more for books, and this looked like an ideal one, because I think it's going to have a similar tropical atmosphere to The Blue. So, yeah, I'm going to be reading that one. I don't want to know too much going in, but apparently it's about two people who get stranded on an island or something like that. So, yeah, that sounds interesting. And now for my Tales from Two Trails picks. This is a game hosted by Kim from Expedition Through Pages. I'll have everyone linked down below again. But I'm on Team B, so my prompts are Fire-Bellied Toad. I have to find a book that reminds me of that. And for that, I'm going to be reading The Fire Within by Chris DeLacy. This is another book I read when I was, in junior high and obsessed with middle grade and young adult fantasy. And this was one of my favorite series when I read it, so I look forward to reading it again. It's about little clay dragons and people who can use them to do magic, from what I remember. So, yeah, that sounds interesting. And for a book that begins with the letter M, My Dark Vanessa. This is a very dark literary fiction, and it has some very serious pedophilia trigger warnings, so yeah. And then for multi-perspective, I'm going to use The Castaways again, because I think this does have two different perspectives, so that should work. And then there's my readathons. I'm participating in 3 of them this month. One of them is just Stephanie's book versus Patreon version of mini TBR Star Hop, which I obviously can't plan for because I'm just picking books in the moment. And then there's Realmathon, which any book I read could work for that because there's a ton of prompts, so I'm not even going to try to fit books in for that. But then there's Spring Into Reading-a-thon, which, for that, I'm going to be reading Aragon for the spring cleaning prompt, which is a book that's been collecting dust on your TBR. Yeah, I've had this book since about a decade or so, and I haven't read it, so, yeah. And then Stormy Weather, a book you're intimidated by, For that, I'm going to read Aethiopika, or however you say that. It's a Greek classic, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, those always intimidate me, so that'll work. And then there's Over the Rainbow, which is a classic or retelling. And for that, I'm reading The Golden Ass, which, yeah, that's another Greek classic. And then Flower Power. For that, for a book with a flower on the cover, I'm reading The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. So, yeah, this is a contemporary romance about two people who end up on a honeymoon together despite the fact that they're not married. So, yeah, fun. Great, my brother's throwing a fit in the next room. Sorry about that, guys. My brother can be really annoying sometimes. I guess that's true of all brothers, but mine is annoying in a different way because he's, again, severely autistic. Anyway, for this month's reading vlog, even though I haven't even finished the Emily Henry one I'm doing for last month, seriously, I'm only like 100 pages into the first book. But anyway, for my next reading vlog, I'm going to be reading 5 books about dragons, including The Fire Within, Aragon, Land of Roar, which is a middle grade where some kids go into a magic world under some bed at their grandpa's house. So it's kind of like Chronicles of Narnia, I guess. And then there's this reference book about dragons that I'm going to read. And also, this book called Rise of the Dragons. I don't remember the name of the author off the top of my head, but this one I'm going to listen to in audiobook form on Spotify. And it just seems like kind of a standard fantasy, which we'll see how much I like it. So, that's everything except the board games. So, now, let's pull out the boards. Starting with the spooky one. Okay, sorry for the delay, which you guys won't even see, but I forgot to get my dice and my bunny. So, last time we played, my bunny was on the over 5 years old horror square. So this time we're going to do a proper dice roll and see where it ends up. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we landed on under 300 pages in the horror section, but since I landed on red twice, I have to roll again and either move forwards if I roll an even, or backwards if I roll an odd. So let's roll again and see what happens. 5? Okay, that means I have to move backwards. That means I need a horror that is under 5 years old. So, we'll see what I can do about that. Okay, so for a horror book under 5 years old, I'm going to be reading Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. This one I'm going to have to buy, but I hear it has some creepy kids drawings, and yeah, that sounds interesting. So, now for the rainbow one. Okay, so last time we were using this board, we had to pick a free spot. So, let's see what we end up with this time. 7. Non-fiction. That's actually perfect. Okay, so for a non-fiction book, I'm going to be picking Rebel Hearts by Kevin Toulis. This is the next book for the Reviewing My Aunt's IRA Books series. And yes, it is a non-fiction, meaning that yes, it does, in fact, count for this. So we're going to be putting it on my TBR. Now, let's do Land of March, shall we? Yeah, this is the new March-themed board, so let's go over it. Basically, it's divided into 5 categories, same as Land of February, but this one is divided into animal-related stuff for World Wildlife Day, women-related stuff for Women's History Month, St. Patrick's Day-related stuff, Pisces-related stuff, and miscellaneous. So, we'll see what I get for this one. Okay. So last time when we were playing Land of February, we were on the 10th square. Let's see where we end up now. 8. Strong female character. That is doable. And for strong female character, I'm going to be picking An Extraordinary Union. Yeah, I'm going to be reusing this one. Because I'm pretty sure it's about a woman who's on the Underground Railroad. Sounds pretty strong to me. So. And finally, we have this one. Now, let me explain how my punishment system for board games works. Instead of rolling the books over, I have to move backwards when I roll. So, for this one, I'm going to be moving backwards. Okay, so last time we were on the hard-hitting contemporary prompt. Let's see how far backwards we have to go. 3. 1, 2, 3. So we landed on middle grade contemporary, but unfortunately, we landed on the same color, which means I can either move forward if I roll an even, or backwards if I roll an odd. So I may have just been saved, actually. Wow. Let's see what I get. 10? Woohoo! I get to move forward. Psychological horror. Or thriller, or mystery. Okay. So, for a genre prompt, I got psychological thriller. And for that, I'm just gonna go with the Castaways again. But I am realizing, now that I've done all those rolls, that I forgot to mention my character picks. So, every month I pick a different character that I created in my head, and I pick 5 books that I think they'd like. So, this month's character is named Elaine. She's a soccer player again, but she's also really interested in history, and she is especially interested in like the history of racial equality and feminism and stuff like that. So for her, I think she would like The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, An Extraordinary Union, The Perks of Being a Wallflower, She Came to Slay, and My Dark Vanessa. So, got all of those out of the way now. Let's see how many books I have to read. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or actually 6, 7, 8. Okay, I'm losing count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. That's kind of a lot, but it gets even worse when you realize that I have 9 rollovers. Yup, I have to read 27 books. Help me, guys. Help me come up with some new rules to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Like maybe some new punishment rules. Leave your suggestions down below. And that's my video. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I'm Morgan from Rebellious Reading, and I'm out.